The project title is The Sages of Manufacturing. And the global problem, which I used as the basis for my procedure, was how might we reduce the vulnerabilities of industrial food production? Millions of people around the world depend on industrially produced foods, yet this system is vulnerable to many things like shifting in demand and consumer taste and wars, supply chain disruptions. I decided to consider the various approaches which I could take to get to my subject. The first of these was industrial engineering. This is something which interests me quite a bit. And the next was the space theme, intelligence. I wondered, how could I relate industrial engineering to intelligence? And this is when I was reminded of something which I've been doing for quite a bit, which is filmmaking, video making. Maybe I could use intelligence as a theme in a film about industrial engineering. Where does intelligence work and where does intelligence not work? And then I came back to industrial engineering and I wondered, was there any product, like any industry, which would be the best exemplar of the supply chain issues and whatever that we talked about, and also would make a compelling film or an original film. And this is where I was reminded of a very important aspect of my culture, my religion, Judaism. There is a cracker called matzah, you can see it, which is traditionally consumed on the Jewish holiday of Passover. Demand is extremely seasonal. Additionally, its production is constrained by tons of ritual laws, to the point where one person said, trying to engineer matzah production is trying to render efficient a process which is inherently inefficient. And then I was reminded of a important connection between Judaism and intelligence. See, in Jewish folklore, there are stories of a town, Chelem, whose inhabitants, they use their immense wisdom for the most absurd and counterproductive solutions to problems. And thus, what if the sages of Chelem opened a matzah factory and absurdity ensued? This project, it's a humorous imagining of exactly the opposite of what engineers should do when they're running any sort of factory. And so my strategy, I'll go through this really quickly. I began with a virtual interview of a real-life matzah engineer. Then, in the form of preparation, I wrote a script for my film. Let's quickly go through the script and see how I implemented these thematic ideas which were mentioned earlier. So the opening scene is a news broadcast. Every part of this script has a very important purpose. The purpose of this one is to introduce people who are not familiar to what exactly matzah is. Next, we have an interview with the rabbi, and he's embodying the voice of corporate, you can call it greed, you can call it efficiency, you can call it trying desperately to phrase things in an appealing manner. Then there are several episodes where we see the Chelmites demonstrate their methodologies. The first is where they misinterpret the idea that matzah is leaving the factory as a source of waste. It is in some ways a logical extension of the concept of the circular economy. Like if you took it one step further, well, maybe factories shouldn't produce anything because that would reduce waste. So we did the engineering episode, and now it's the ritual laws episode. Tradition says that you can't go over 18 minutes between the mixing of the flour and water and the baking of the matzahs. They assume that maybe the most traditionally accurate timekeeping is automatically guaranteed by the most scientifically accurate clocks. So they use synchronized atomic clocks to count I don't know what. This is exactly the kind of logic that these folkloric stories are full of. Lastly, the Chelmites try to implement an AI system to solve the administrative and technical problems that are facing their operations. And in this case, they fail because they simultaneously put too much trust in the AI
and not enough trust in the AI. They put too much trust in the design of each AI, and yet they don't put enough trust in themselves to tweak their parameters and make them fit the situation. And this results in a comedic scenario where there's this third AI tells the second AI, which tells the first AI, which tells the factory machines what to do. It's in some ways a reference to the traditional Passover song of the ox that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat my father gave me. It works on multiple levels.
Then I filmed. My rabbi was, to my great delight, he became the main character. And then my brother, he got several more roles. I had originally planned to have all of these segments which take place in Chenem be fully animated, but due to a combination of factors, I was not able to do this in time.
One of these factors was wasting an inordinate amount of time on this gigantic painting.
We have our village nestled in between the mountains, as the legend says. On the top of this mountain is the famous watermill. The joke is not immediately obvious, but watermills are supposed to be built near water. I was trying to think about how would the building of an enormous new factory shape the village, both socially and economically. Of course, they built this new fancy highway, constructed this McMansion. This here is a tent settlement of people displaced from the site where the factory was built. So anyway, a lot of effort went into that. That left me with not much time to do the hard work of animating the rest of the film. So instead, I decided to downscale the visual approach and use digital sketches, enough to get the point across. Here is our short film. You can watch it on YouTube if you'd like. And of course, if I were to continue this project, I would work the visuals in more detail, maybe animate them, improve sound quality. I could speak about this for hours, but I think this presentation should be enough to give you some idea of what my project is and how it relates to the space themes and how it's an insightful and valuable project.